it this way. Can you hear me now? Let's see here. Can you hear me now? Hopefully. Okay. Let's see here. No sound. Okay. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to the chats. Let's see here. Can you hear my sound? Let's see here. If somebody can let me know that they can hear the sound. Let's see here. Oh, yes, I've got sound now. Yay. All right, let's do just a quick little refresher. What we're making is an interactive pop-up window card, and it basically looks like this. And I'm making it out of the papers from this All and Create pack. It is an older pack, so you might not be able to buy it anymore, but that's absolutely okay because you can use whatever you have. I'm using the papers and the ephemera out of here, and then the YouTube in 2 weeks is going to be using the washi tape out of here that makes these little pictures out of the washi tape, but that's for the next YouTube. Next thing you're going to need is you're going to need some paper, and I'm using 2 different weights of paper, but you can use 1 weight. That is perfectly fine. This weight is a 65-pound paper, and then this piece is 100-pound paper, and I'm just using 2 different weights because when you have this and it's, say, take for instance, it's unfolded, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of paper here. And so I'm just making the inside piece a little bit of a lighter weight so that you can actually, fold it and it'll fold flat. It just takes some of the bulk out of it. It's absolutely fine if you only have 1 weight of paper. Use the 1 weight of paper that you have. That is perfectly okay. All right, I'm just going to tuck that out of the way here so that we can go and do our trimming. We need a little piece of paper for the sentiment. We need a piece of Miri, and I'm using Miri or sort of sparkly. You could use glitter card, anything that's a little bit special, just to make that frame around the outside. You could also use just regular cardstock. It's perfectly fine either way. I'm also using, as I said, some of the paper here from that All in Create pack, but you could use any pattern paper that you have. Mine's about the equivalent of about 1.5, 1 3/4 of a 6x6 piece of cardstock. But if you have 12x12 or 8.5x11, that is perfect to use as well because we're gonna cut this up. You are going to need some ephemera, and so I've picked out some nummy food things here as my ephemera. You'll need a couple of dies. You'll need something that will give you a sentiment. So I'm going to use this for my sentiment. But you could also use a die cut sentiment. You could use some ephemera sentiment, completely up to you. All right, and then the last things that you're going to need is you're going to need something that is a nesting die. So I've got these 2 sort of half circle, half oval, rectangle shapes. The secret is that it has to be a nesting die because you're going to use that to make this frame around the outside. And there are lots and lots of nesting dies. These ones just have, as you can see here, they just have a straight edge, but there's ones that have stitching, there's ones that have like loopy things around them. There's all sorts of varieties of nesting dies. And as you continue with your card making, you're going to find that a good couple sets of nesting dies in sort of the standard shapes, they are invaluable because you'll use them all the time, whether it's for layers in your card or something like this where you're cutting different chunks out of pieces of paper. All right, so there you go, you're caught up. Sorry about that sound issue. All right, so I took my 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper and I cut it. This is already 8.5, so I just cut it at 5.5, and that gave you 2 pieces here that are exactly the same. So if you wanted to, you could quite easily make 2 of these cards. All right, I'm just going to tuck that over here. Next, we wanted to score this because then we're completely done with this. Now, if you have a separate board that does your scoring. You might want to save your scoring till afterwards or bounce back and forth between your trimmer and your score. My little trimmer here has both the scoring and the trimming in it. Then we're going to score at 4 1/4. So just move this over, and as you can recognize, this is exactly like a normal card. It's 5.5 long by 4 1/4 wide. All right, we're completely done with that one. Next, we're going to do the inside, and it's going to be 8 by 5 inches. So let's move this over here to 5 inches, and let's move this down so you can actually see. There we go. That's at 5 inches. So I'm going to trim that up, take that excess and just tuck it away. And then this, I'm going to have to pull my little arm out here so that I can get my 8-inch measurement. Line that up with 8 and trim off that little piece. And you can just put that over for recycling or for the next time. And we're going to do our scoring. So we need our scoring. I've got too many things in the way here. Okay, we've got scoring at 2 1/2. So you put your paper kind of like this so that you're starting and you're going to move to the left in your scoring machine, or depending on your scoring machine, you might have to kind of do a little adaptation to see, you might have to move to the right or to the left. So we're going to put this at 2 1/2. Make sure you keep that cutting blade out of the way and do your score at 2 1/2. And we need another one at 4 1/2. And the final one at 6. There we go. And now we can set that piece aside for right now. That's those 2 pieces. I'm going to leave this cutting measurement up here so that if you're running a little bit behind, you can follow along. And let's see here. I'm just checking the chats just to make sure that I don't miss anything else here. And nothing on the chat, so awesome. All right, we're going to move on to our pattern paper. So grab your pattern paper, and you need sort of the equivalent of 4 pieces. So where will those 4 pieces go? There's one piece around the outside here and inside here. There's one piece here, one piece here, and one piece hidden, half hidden in behind here. So there are your 4 pieces. So I'm just going to look here and pick one that's going to go on the front. So I like this one because it kind of has a pattern sort of around the 3/4 of the front here. And the centerpiece I'm going to end up cutting out with my die here that will be the background for this. So I think, let's see whether this one is wide enough to do that largest piece down here, the 4 by 5 1/4. And look at that, it is just perfect. So I'm going to go and I'm going to cut this. So it is 4 inches wide and by 5 1/4 tall. And I'm going to swing it this way so that I keep this sort of pattern down on the bottom there. So we're going to move that there. And we want to make this by 5 1/4. So let's just double check. Yep, 5 1/4. Make sure it's nice and square. And trim that other little hunk off there. So now this is my 4 by 5 1/4. That will be my front panel. Next, I need to grab some other pieces here. We need one that's, the rest of them are all by 4 3/4. So I'm going to trim that up right now because then as I cut the little, the widths of it, the height is all the same. So 4 3/4. I want to keep this on the bottom here. So I'm going to trim from this side because if I do 4 3/4 here, it would cut almost all of this off if I had it switched the other way around. So I'm going to have it this way. So I keep this and some of this will disappear, but that's okay. So there's my 4 3/4 and I need a 2 1/4. So let's go, I'm going to just sort of swing it around so that this piece is my 2 1/4. That is going to be the piece that's right here in the card. So I want to have lots of pattern on it. So let's make this 2 1/4. And there we go. Make sure it's nice and square. Trim that up. So that's going to be my piece that's right on sort of the far right hand side. I need that one that's 1 3/4 and one that's 1 1/4. So let's go and make this, let's make this 1 3/4. There we go. There's that piece. So I've got those 2 pieces there, and I need one more that is 1 1/4. Let's just see here. Why don't we make this one? Because that's going to be this little piece that's underneath. So it's pretty much hidden. So I'm going to take, I've probably pulled too much cardstock here. Nope, that's the front. Let's just make sure that I'm not using one that I'm going to need here. Nope, that's those 2 pieces. All right, let's go and make this one out of this piece here, because then we have the pattern on the bottom and the top, but that's the only part that's going to show, because that's this piece here and this piece here. So let's go, and this one hasn't been trimmed down, so we need this at 4 3/4. So let's go. I'm going to keep this part's going to go, and I'm going to keep that part and trim that up. Get rid of that guy, and I want to keep this part. So I'm going to spin it around and make that 1 1/4. There we go. And then this is excess. I'm just going to leave that off to the side. So I have my 4 pieces here. So this is going to be my inside here. Let's spin that around so it's the same direction. This is going to be my inside here piece here, and it'll be this piece, and this piece. And then this piece will be the front. And there are my 4 pattern pieces of paper. And so I'm just going to move them. I won't need my trimmer, so I'm just going to tuck that away. And I want to put a little bit of color on here. And you can kind of see I did that here. I put a little bit of color right here and along the edges. It just kind of adds a little something to it. And I'm going to leave my 2 little pieces there so that if you're following along, you still have your cutting instructions. So I'm just going to bring in a little bit of distressed ink and a little sponge dauber here. And I have the flat one on here. You could also have a domed one that has a little bit of a dome, and just play with them. There's all sorts of different varieties of brushes and such out there. Just play with them, because they all they have their own use in different places, whether you get used to using a flat one or a dome one, or a brush one, like something like this, or something that is a little bit more kind of like this. There are all sorts of brushes out there. So I'm going to use this one, just kind of get it a little bit inky here. And then I'm just going to kind of go around the edge, and you can see it adds a little bit to your time of creating this, but it just adds a little something, because you can see here that's where it's done, and this is where it's not down. It just kind of finishes it off a little bit. Now, you don't have to do this for every single card that you do. Some cards, it just doesn't make sense to do it. And it's perfectly fine if you don't do it. Don't worry if you don't have the tools to do it. It adds a little something to the card, but it doesn't mean that not having it means that the card is wrong, because everybody creates their own style of card, and be proud of what you make, however you make it, and using the stash that you have. All right, so let's go and just finish this up. And you don't need a whole lot on these pieces, because they already kind of have some color to them. So there's those pieces. Now we're going to bring those 2 pieces of cardstock in, and we're going to also do those. So when I have a piece of cardstock here that I'm folding, when you put a score in, there's like a side where it goes in, called a valley fold, and then a side, let's try and get this to show up. There you go. A side that comes out. So people usually call that a mountain fold. So the way that I have always found that it works the best is if you fold it so that the valley is kind of on the outside and the mountain is on the inside. It kind of prevents cracking of your card, or those fuzzy little weird edges when you fold. So let's just fold it exactly in half here, because this is going to be your card base. And what did I do with my bone folder? There we go. All right, so there's that. And then we're going to take our other piece, and again, I've got my valley folds here and my mountain folds over on this side. So I'm going to fold this, and in a piece where you have a lot of interactivity, I like to fold both ways. So I'm going to fold this way first, and you fold it over along the score so that the sides line up nice and equal, and just give that a good burnish, and then fold to the next one, and again make sure your sides are lining up nice and equal. And then our last one here, same thing. And then I usually just flip it over and I will fold it back the other way. It just sort of breaks down those paper fibers so that it folds a little smoother, a little nicer. And then once you've folded it both ways, then you're going to do your official folding, how you actually want it to interact. So in this card, you kind of have it looking like this. So your first one, if you kind of push it together, your first one and your last one, you want to end up with a shape that looks like this. So basically, depending on, if you started from the longest side, you're going to fold towards, the next piece is going to fold towards the mountain, towards the longest side. And then you're going to make like a tabletop. I need 5 hands here. You need a tabletop that goes up here, and then a piece that comes down. So it ends up looking like this. Now, the reason why you want it to look like this is because when you fold it over, see how it kind of just folds flat? And I'm just going to do a little burnish there so that it likes that fold. So once you have the fold that looks like this, you know you're good. And now let's do a little bit of our edging. Now I'm going to actually sort of go in a little bit more on this side, because this is the part right here. And I didn't do it on my first card, but I thought, ooh, you know what? It would look a lot better if I did it on the second card. So that's what I'm doing. And you can see I'm just coming in a little bit. It catches the edge, so it makes the edge darker, but it also brings that whatever color that you're using to highlight in a little bit on that card. And if you want to, you could even flip it over and do the same thing on the other side if you wanted to. It is kind of hidden inside, but it's completely up to you. I'm going to do it because you can see here, you can see that piece inside. So I am going to do both sides. So just get a little bit more ink here, just go around and around. Doesn't have to be terribly, terribly pretty. And if you get something like this where you can kind of see there's sort of like circly marks, well, make a few more of them on the other sides, and then it looks intentional. You never want to just throw something out because, oops, I made a little mistake. It's always an opportunity for an embellishment or to repeat the technique so it looks like it's on purpose. All right, next we're going to fold it back into the pieces, the direction that we want it to go. So we want it going like that. So I'm going to burnish these with a little bit of ink. And the nice thing about this flat one is you just kind of go like this, and it kind of hits both sides, but it gets just a teeny tiny little bit, so it looks like that. And then let's do the same here with the card. Now, if you're using a mat like I am here, you'll notice that, oops, where's my, I just need a little bit of a paper towel here just to get some of that brown up. I'm going to hit it with a little wet of water here in a minute. Let's do this side here as well. And this one I'm just going to do around the edges, both inside and out. And you can do front and back if you want to. I'm just doing it on the back as well. But let's face it, most people don't even look at the back. So if you don't want to do the back, you don't have to. And then I'm going to do on the inside as well. And just a teeny tiny little bit around the edges. It doesn't take long once you kind of get the hang of it. And how much goes on the edge depends on the angle of your brush. So if I have my brush quite angled like this, it's going to kind of color more into the paper. Whereas if I have it like, almost like perpendicular, it just sort of runs along the edge. And then at about a 45, it kind of gets just that little skinny line in there. I'm not going to worry about putting the line down the center because that will be well hidden inside. So I'm not that worried about it. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of water and just make sure that I do not have any color left on my work surface that's going to color the end of my, the backside of my card or whatever I'm working on. All right, so now let's start doing some decorating. So let's take our piece here that's going to be the inside piece and our little bits here that are going to go on it. So if we look here, that piece goes there, that piece goes there, that piece goes there, and nothing on the far left one. So grab your glue and glue those down. And you want to make sure that you've got sort of equal distant borders around the outside. And I've got a great big glob of glue here, so I'm just going to sort of spread it inside and make sure you've got it going the direction you want. I want sort of the biggest part of the pattern on the outside. So there we go. We'll put that there. And then this one, I'm going to have the pattern on the bottom, but it could quite as well go like that, but I like it on the bottom. So I'm just going to grab that, glue this. How's everybody doing? Am I going too fast? Hopefully not. And then this piece here, I'm going to, which direction do I want this? I'm actually going to put it this way. Nobody's going to see the center portion of it. They're going to just see the top and the bottom. Alrighty. Then put that last little piece in there. All right, so that is the inside all decorated up. We can set that aside now. So we're going to go back out to the front. Now with our front here, this piece that we cut, the 4 by 5.25, this is going to go on the front of my card. And I can put that on right now if I want. Then we're going to do some die cutting with our die cut machine, whatever you happen to use. I have a Big Shot. So I'm just going to grab that, pull that over, and I use a magic mat inside here to help save the plates, because you can see it is well used. It takes a licking and keeps on ticking. And it helps saves the number of plates that you use, because you can go through these an awful lot, because you can see they get quite chewed up by whatever dies you're using. Even if they're not cutting into the plate, they get the impressions in there. But I look at this and go, you know what? This is just a well-loved machine, the more it looks like that. So I want to take my biggest piece of my die. So you've got this piece and you've got the smaller piece, right? I'm going to take the biggest piece of that die. And what you're going to do is turn it so that it goes into your machine, and just sort of turn it just a teeny bit sideways. Don't have it square on. If you have a flat edge like this, try not to do that, like have it go square on, because when it goes through the little rollers in here to squish that die, if it's encountering a flat edge, it's really hard on those rollers. And so if you put it just as I say, it's not much. It's just a teeny tiny little bit cockeyed, and it just helps it as it goes through to kind of slide over top of the die. Kind of like if when you were learning to drive, and the driving instructor said, if you have to drive up over a curb because your car broke down or something like that, go over one tire at a time rather than square on. It's just a little easier. So I'm going to kind of center this ish inside here, and you can see I've got that right there. And I am going to cut through both layers of the pattern paper and the front of my cardstock. The back, you can see, is flattened out. If I pick it up, the back is flattened out running in behind. So you're only cutting that front panel, and run it through your die cut machine. And you want to make sure that it's going through firmly, but not so that you shouldn't have to arm wrestle your machine. If you have to arm wrestle your machine, then you need to take a layer out so that it's not quite so tight. And sometimes you have to kind of go through a couple of times just to make sure that it cuts, because you are cutting through two pieces of paper there. And so I just kind of run it through a couple of times here, and then I will kind of pick it up. And if I do this right, then I can stick my fingers underneath and pick the top piece up and the bottom piece up, and just look on the bottom, and you can see it cut through here and here, but it's not cut through here and here. And my die hasn't moved, so I'm just going to put it back in there and run that through another time or two. Whoops. And mine's a really tight fit right now because that all in create paper is really quite thick. So I'm just going to run it through. It was the two sort of vertical sides that were not cut, so I'm just kind of concentrating my cutting on those two vertical sides. Let's pick it up again, stick my fingers under, and it's definitely cutting through the top. It's now halfway through here. I'm going to cut it through a little bit more just because here and here could use just a teeny bit more cutting. And sometimes you'll have to actually, put a shim in there, just another piece of paper, just so that it goes through and does that extra little bit of a cut. I found that with my machine, quite often, if I just run it through a couple times like this and concentrate on where it's not cutting, then it kind of decides to cooperate with me. So now that's not too bad. I might be a little tight here that I might have to trim, but basically right there, maybe it's cut, maybe it's not. So I'm just going to slide that off there. And best case scenario, it just kind of falls out. Well, you know what? Yep, just that teeny little bit on the corner there. So I'm just going to take my scissors and finish that little trim job there, just by popping that up a little bit and then just trimming that last teeny bit, little bit, and there we go. So I've got my die cut that's come out and the die cut, or the part that stays inside. We're going to be using both of those pieces, so don't throw those pieces away. All right, set that aside. Grab whatever paper you are going to use for your frame, and let's put them in here. And I'm just going to line them up. And when I have something that's square like this, I try and line it up with a corner, because then if you're kind of looking like this, you've kind of saved the biggest chunk you can possible of the paper, because usually, fancy paper like this is a little bit more expensive. So you want to make sure that you use all the paper that you possibly can. So I will line it up into a corner where you have like a square like this. I will line it up into the corner as close as I can, because then it leaves me the most amount of space that is possible. If this piece of paper was maybe going underneath and going to be covered completely with some Miri, you've got a sort of a standard layer, then what I might do is cut it to whatever size I need, and then cut other pieces or the sentiment or whatever out of the center, making sure that I leave enough bit around the edge so that when my new piece of paper comes on, that all you see is the Miri that's supposed to be there. And it kind of tricks you into thinking that the center is not cut out, but I've cut the center out. So that is something else that I quite often do. And then I'll just sort of put this on the side a little bit so that it's not going through, because I've got the two flat edges here. Whoops, I've got the two flat edges right here. So I'm going to just sort of line that up, center that up, and depending on your machine, um, I have a magnetic pad underneath here. And so when I line my dies up like this, they usually stay where they are. If you don't have a magnetic pad underneath, and most of these machines ship without that magnetic pad, then you might want to just take a little bit of repositional tape and just tape it down so that that doesn't move. All right, that's pretty equal distance around, and I'm going to go and grab this, and I'm just going to run it through 2 times to make sure that it works well. Alrighty, and now if I pull everything up, you can see you've got this piece here that you can use for something else, and then you've got your pretty frame. Now when you go to put this on, there's a couple of different ways you could have done this. I'm going to put it so that the frame is around the outside of this. You could have also used a smaller die on the inside on this part, and then put it like a smaller die on this to cut it out, and then use that smaller die, whatever size it is, to be your inside, and then a larger piece on the outside, and then you could put that on the outside here. That's kind of what I did on this one, but I'm switching it up. So my frame is going to be on the part that will sort of spin. All right, so let's grab our die here. We don't need this for a little while here, so I'm just going to put that aside. And I'm going to get my frame. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put it, because the outside of this die is the exact same size as the outside of this die. When I put it sort of one on top of each other, it's not going to show on the other side because it's exactly the same size. So let's glue that down. And you want to make sure that you get fairly close to the edge because you really don't want that kind of coming up. There we go. And just glue that down. And the nice thing about having a flat square bottom like this is you can tap this on the bottom like that, and then you know this is right on the same sort of level as this one is, and then you can just kind of press your glue up and around like that. And if you flip it over, just make sure that there's no overhang on any of your other sides. If you're using something like an oval or a circle or something like that, you don't have that flat side to kind of tap on, so you just have to kind of wiggle it into place. I tend to use liquid glue because it gives me the wiggle space, because sometimes I change my mind, and you need that wiggle space to kind of move things about. All right, let's go and grab that inside piece again. So there we go. Let's open our card up, and we're going to actually fold this so that that second piece folds on top of the first piece, and all you can see is sort of what would be 4, 3, and 1. And you'll notice when you do that and put it here, it fits. There's the fold of your card. It fits right inside there, leaving a little bit of space. Move that up, leaving a little space here for the fold that's going to be right here. There's a little bit of space here, and then you've got sort of equal-ish borders around the other 3 sides, and this folds up nice and tight. If this is too long, don't be afraid to just trim a little bit of that piece off so that you've got a little space between the score or the fold of the center here and the start of this piece of paper, because if they land exactly right on the fold, it's not going to kind of fold pretty. All right, so I'm going to turn that over, and this is piece number 1, right? We're going to turn it over, and we're going to put glue all over piece number 1. There we go. If you have any questions as we're going through, I've got about a 20-second delay in my questions showing up versus me seeing them. But if you have any questions, put them in. I'd love to answer them. All right, so I've turned my card sideways so that the back side of the card, the right side of the card, is sort of towards me. I've got that piece number 1 here toward me. I'm going to flip it like that. So all you can see is 4, 3, and 1. And I'm going to put it down, sort of keeping my eye on where my edges are and keeping this side, the last piece, that 4, away from the center fold, because then when you do that, it'll fold nicely. All right, push that down a little bit. There we go. And now we're halfway there. Well, more than halfway there. It looks something like that. A little bit weird, but we haven't finished yet. The next piece, we're going to fold that flat again, and we're going to get a pencil. Now, if you want to eyeball it, you can do that too. I'm going to fold the front right over top of everything. Oh, look at that. I need a little bit more glue there. Let's put a little bit more glue there so that it doesn't pop up. There we go. Give it a minute to really grab a hold. All right. Ooh, and make sure that the glue doesn't squish out from underneath, because then the card will not work. There we go. All right. So fold that front piece over. Now you can see that this piece number 4 and piece number 3 are completely showing within your shape. What you want to do is you want to put glue on piece number 3 where it's not going to show when you open up like this. So I just take a pencil here and just kind of mark where that's going to be. So if we open it up like that, you can see there's my one mark there, and there's my other mark just up from the edge. Okay. This is where we're going to put glue. Only on this piece, not on the back piece. And you're just going to put glue here and down here. And because my edge is pretty skinny here, I'm just going to use my finger and just kind of spread that about. It kind of prevents some of the oozing that might happen. And then you're going to fold this piece over. So there's no glue on piece number 4. You're only putting it on piece number 3. And just hold it down for a minute. And then when you do that, there we go. You might have to encourage it a little bit on the first. Let's see here. Haha, you know what? Hopefully you haven't glued yet, because I did this wrong. Let me just get a little bit of, if you make an oops like this and you have glue there where you shouldn't have it, a little piece of moist towel or baby wipe, and then just kind of wipe it off. And then you get, where is it here? You know, these things that you get for embossing, you just kind of boop, 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 and that gets rid of a bunch of your sticky. You will wipe most of the sticky off with the towel, but you kind of finish off getting rid of the last of the sticky there. So instead of it being on 3, let's just get rid of our marks here. There we go. We're going to do it on 4. Sorry. Hopefully you haven't glued. We're just going to put our little marks here and here and there. All right. So you can see here, there's our mark, there's our mark, there's our mark. Because we want this glued to the front so that this one free folds, the next piece goes on 3. Sorry guys if you have already glued. Hopefully you haven't, and hopefully you can recover from that. So now we put our little glue here, and whoops, try not to get it to come through, and do that little dab and smush area bit that kind of prevents it from having too much. This also works if you have die cuts. All right, now fold it over. Let's do this again. All right. Just takes a minute for that liquid glue to kind of go through. And now when we open it, it opens like this. All right. It's so easy to make a mistake, isn't it? All right. So now, because we put a little bit of that embossing dust on there, this is not sticky here, which is good because it's time for this little guy to come inside. This little guy is going to go inside here. So where you see number 3, that panel number 3, that is where you're going to stick this other piece, because then when it goes through here, it's going to be a tight fit. You'll have to kind of work with it a little bit, but then when you open it, it will glue itself to number 3 here. All right, let's just get rid of that for right now. You can still kind of see the pencil marks from before. Let's just get glue in here. And my poor little glue bottle seems to be very oozy today. Try not to get it on any of the other panels. Take our little panel here, and if you want to, if you know, when you if you do a dry fit and it's really tight, you can sometimes go and take just a teeny bit off the edge. And I'm actually going to use my trimmer just to take a teeny bit, like we're talking like 1/32 of an inch off the edge. And so I'm just going to line this up so that I can just take a teeny tiny little bit off. So you can see this is how much I took off. We're not talking a lot here. It just makes it a little bit easier to kind of open and close. Now, if you don't do this, this is perfectly fine as well. There we go. All right, so now we've got that glue sitting over here waiting for us. This should just fit right inside here. And you'll want to just give it a good squish to make sure that it really grabs a hold, because you don't really want to be opening this until it's actually firmly held. So what I'm going to do is just sort of give it a good squish down, and we can go ahead and let's pull out our ephemera while that is sort of sticking. If you wanted to, you could kind of hold the center down while you kind of peel the other edging around it and then just sort of test it like that. Or if you wanted to, you could use something like double-sided tape or something like that for this centerpiece. Completely up to you. All right, next we're going to pull the Big Shot back in here, because what I want to do is I want to create my sentiment that's going to go on the front here. And I'm just going to use one of the little chunks that I took off from when I was doing my trimming. I'm just going to take those. Let's just make here no questions. That's good. So I could either go all white like this, or sort of have it part way in, or I could use the other little chunk and have a little bit more. I want a little bit more color to the front, because the front of my card is pretty white, you know, pretty bland so far. So I want a little bit of color. So I'm going to move this down into the sort of bottom area here where I've got the color. I'm going to turn it sideways again so that it makes it easier to go through. Run that through. And I'm just going to put it through twice just to make sure that that really cuts through. And this is kind of a neat die. Trying to get it out sometimes is kind of fun here, but you just put something pokey in here to get it out here. There we go. All right, so this die is really cool because it cuts the little letters right out of whatever it is you're doing, and then you just have to poke the letters out and you're good to go. So there we go. So I'm just going to go and find my A is going to have that little centerpiece in the middle of the A. I want to keep that, so I'm going to isolate that there, and then the rest of this can just go back in here and I won't worry about it for right now. If I wanted to, I could go and, you know, use this as a template and then put the letters, put only glue in the letter spots and then, you know, just have the letters sort of popping out, but I'm going to use it like this. The other thing I'm going to do is I want this on a dark background. It just makes it pop a little bit. So I just have a little piece of black here and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back side of this. And I'm not being very careful as to where I'm putting the glue, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to run it across the back of my hand. And I do this quite often with teeny weeny little skinny things like this, or, you know, if you're making dies, little character dies or whatever that have those itsy bitsy teeny weeny little pieces, this just takes the extra glue off. And then when you look on the back side, it's still sticky, but it doesn't have those big hunks of glue. And then I'm going to line this up. And if I line this up square to the one side like that, hold it down, and I'm going to find that A, and I'm going to pop that little center piece. You can see the centerpiece in that A. I want that, but that is terribly tiny. So I'm going to just kind of pop it out, hopefully on my finger. Hopefully it stays. And yes, so it's on my finger. I'm going to put a tiniest drop in the middle there of my A. Oops, it kind of globbed that. Get rid of that. Get rid of some of the glue. And then I'm going to take a little, whoop, this is going to be fun. If you ever have one of these pokey tools that have a wax end on it, those are really handy because you can then just pick it up and put it down in the center here, and sometimes it releases. Sometimes you kind of have to get your fingernail in there, and it is not looking, it's looking like I lost it. Nope, no, it's still on the end of my wax thing. There it is. All right, so at least I've got it down now, and now I'm just going to use a pokey tool to kind of get it into where I want it to be. Normally these are a little bit easier. Okay, close enough. See how it's in there? It's kind of cockeyed a little bit, but that is close enough. I'm going to call that a win. All right, so now I'm going to take a big pair of scissors, or you could run this along your trimmer and just cut underneath the edge of that so that it gets rid of the black on the edge. So sometimes you kind of have to go at it a couple of times to just make sure that you get all of the black here. And because we lined it up in the corner here and here, we don't have to worry about those two sides. And so that's what it looks like now. I'm going to call that a win and get rid of those pieces. And this should have solidified enough there that we don't have to worry about it. So grab your ephemera. And this is where you kind of dry fit your ephemera to see where it fits and do you like where it's fitting. So I'm going to put this kind of on this side because we can't really attach it to the frame, because if I do, if it's attached here, this piece has to be able to come up to swing. So it's going to have to go on here, but that's okay. And then I'm going to put my I'm going to put my teapot here, and on this side it can kind of go under. If I have to, I can put it underneath because it'll fit right underneath there. This one, I've got lots of room, so I can put it over on this side. And again, this side you could overhang because it doesn't have to kind of go under this far side. This I'm going to tuck underneath here, and then let's see here. Nope, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this up here like that. And I don't really need this little piece. So I always dry fit first just to make sure that I have things where I want them, and I kind of have it visually in my head where I want to put things. Next, you have to think and go, okay, what do I want to glue directly down on the card versus pop up on some foam. And so I'm going to glue this piece down directly on here because I don't really want it moving. So I'm going to just kind of grab this and make sure that I've got it where I want it. And I'm just going to take a little excess of that glue off and put that there. It can overhang on this side because it'll sit on top of this edge, but I don't want it overhanging on the bottom. There we go. And then our little teapot, I'm going to prop the teapot up on some foaming. So I buy my foam because I use a lot of it in big rolls like this, but foam can also come on pieces like this, or pieces like this. There's all sorts of ways to get your foam. And I am just going to grab this and go, okay, how much do I need here? I need a chunk that will kind of cover up here. I don't necessarily, I'm not worried about these ones being propped up so much because they're really not going to go anywhere, and it's good stiff paper. If this was sort of flimsy paper, I might look at propping this up with some skinny foam, but this is good thick paper, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to throw a nice chunk of foam there. But I do want to glue my cup down flat. So my cup is going to be flat, my macarons are going to be flat, my cake and my teapot are going to be up. And because I know this is going to be overhanging, I'm going to use my fingers, grab where I do not want glue. So that's going to be this little piece right here. So then when I do my glue, my fingers are holding onto the bit. I don't want my glue over on this side. So my fingers, they're there hogging the space, and then I don't have to worry about it. Because I have glued in the wrong spot before. You might have noticed earlier today. All right, I put my foam on this piece, so let's peel our foam back. And now I can put it here, and I can tuck it under a little bit if I want to, but it's going to infringe with this bit. But when I open it up, it's not going to be in the way, but I'm going to put it kind of right there. And I have to prop up my cake. So again, grab another hunk of foam here. And I like to kind of gently put it down and then flip it over. Just make sure that there's not like a corner hanging out, because if you've just put it down gently, you can kind of peel the corner back and just trim that little hunk off so that it doesn't show on the other side. And let's just take the backing off. And I'm going to put that sort of right here. And I know that I'm going to have this coming right here. So this is the next thing. Because I put this up on foam, if I glue this right to the back, it's going to go like a speed bump as soon as it hits this cake, because this is up on foam and then the stuff down here is on a different layer. So I actually want to put this part up on foam, but not this part, because this part's already on foam from the cake. So I can put foam up to the W, and then this and the cake will be on the same layer. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my foam, and I'm going to actually cut it in half. So when I put it on here, and actually I think I need to trim it up just a little bit more. There we go. So when I put it on the back of this, and again, I'm going to hold on to the part that I don't want glued. So that's the W. And I'm going to put my foam right there. Now I know it goes off, so I can just take that little hunk off the back there so that it lines up. And then what I'm going to do, because my W is right here, I'm just going to take that little hunk that I took there and put it there. And that should be enough to give me that lift that I want. So now let's take the backing off. Let's see here. I have missed the middle of the other A. You're right, I did. So once this is all glued on, I'm going to probably have to make a little bit to that other A. Just cut off a teeny tiny little bit and put it there. because it is completely lost to the nether regions of my desk. All right, so now I have no glue or no sticky from the wish portion, but the Meka I do. So if I, again, dry fit it like that, I could go and put a little bit of glue in behind the SH, and that's going to be the same level as my cake here. And so then I'm going to have it go here. And so now if you kind of look sideways a little bit, this has foam here and it's one layer. The cake has foam, and the second half of Wish just kind of glues onto the cake. So it's all kind of one layer. If you kind of run your hands across it, it's all one layer, and it's not going to look like it's got a, a great big divot out of it. There we go. So now when you open this up, you might want to just, sometimes the first couple of times you kind of have to guide it and coax it a little bit to open up. But now when you open it up, you can see it looks like that. And it stands up really nicely on your desk or your mantle. And what do you do about this glob of glue that's sitting here? Well, once it gets kind of like this, if you're of a certain age, you remember doing this with rubber cement in elementary school, and you can see it just kind of peels off like little boogers. You just peel it off like that. It's water soluble glue, so it won't harm your skin or anything like that. And if you have a little bit of leftovers, by the time you go and wash your hands, you can see there, it's just, there's nothing there left. It's all gone. All right, there you go. So you've just made a interactive pop-up window card, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoy making cards like this and thought this was a lot of fun, I do have a membership called the Cardmakers Playroom. You are more than welcome to come and check us out. There's all sorts of membership options and stuff. I do have a sale on, a summer sizzler sale on right now, where you get 25% off of the membership. I will put the post as soon as this video goes through. I'll put the post right down at the bottom, the links in the description. Let me just check here and make sure that, yes, my second bit of my A could be still in my machine with the rest of it. True. I'm not sure whether it is or not, because there's all sorts of little teeny weeny little bits here. Or best case, it might still be. Oh no, it's the A is in here, but the bits is gone. So what I will do here to find it, I will just take this little A, and I will just cut a teeny tiny little bit off of his foot, and I will plunk that into that second A so that it looks like it's filled in. But yeah, as I say, if this was a lot of fun for you, this is exactly what we do in the playroom, and we do have a sale on right now with the Summer Sizzler Sale. As I say, give me a half hour or so for this to kind of distill in YouTube, and then I'll put it in the bottom of the description. The sale goes till tomorrow at 11:59 Pacific time. So, if you want to take advantage of that, you've got until late tomorrow night to do that. Yeah, and if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, because I am going to have more of these videos being posted. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining, and let's just see here. Oh, some really nice comments in the comment area. Thank you very much for that, guys. I really love making fun calls. Anyways, thanks very much for joining me. We will see you next time. Have a good day. Take care. Great idea for the A. Yes.